Yeah, I did change, and I'm really glad I changed.
This one's wife. Harry, you're such a dick. Elsewhere, I have reported on Harry being filmed surfing, and I provide you with my view as to what might actually be behind all of that. But how does this actually make him look? There he is, with his outfit on a surfboard, which is the size of a bloody double mattress. Doesn't look too confident, okay? He's learning to surf. But he lives by the coast, so why isn't he in the sea? Why is he at this surf ranch in this artificial environment? Perhaps it could be argued, of course, that because his handler, also known as his wife, has purchased some lessons for him, that he had to take them at the surf ranch. But surely the instructor would go in the sea with him. Is it the case that the waves are a bit big for you, Harry? Ooh, maybe those horrible jellyfish might sting you. Perhaps it's the case that he's a little bit frightened of getting in the actual sea and instead wants the safety of this tank, which makes him look like a bit of a wet wipe. It creates this image of the fact that he's perpetually on holiday. On the one hand, he's banging on about wanting public money for his security costs, and he's wanting those security costs to be met by the taxpayer. And in actual fact, then what does he do? He swans around in a rather entitled fashion and always appears basically just to be larking about. To some extent, of course, he's a victim of the way that he's been brought up. He doesn't really appear to have a massive work ethic. And this has bred into him a degree of entitlement because he hasn't known any other way. That doesn't mean that he's an uncaring individual. It just means that he engages in certain behaviours which will often appear tone deaf, which is entertaining because that rather fits well with the behaviour of his wife, although hers, of course, is born out of her narcissism. But there he is with his oversized surfboard undertaking the surfing. What does it make him look like? I think he looks a bit gormless, don't you? I think he looks a bit of a simp, really. It looks really like he's in a toddler pool, which I suppose some might argue is quite accurate given the behaviours that he sometimes engage in. But he doesn't even paddle into the wave himself. He has basically hired somebody else to do that for him to make it look like he's got some surfing skills. So I think really it's a bit of a pose that's going on here. Now, he got these lessons 4 years ago, and isn't it the case, isn't it rumoured that he's been spending time with a surfing instructor, a female surfing instructor, and there's various rumours suggesting that there might be a bit more than just surfing going on there. No actual evidence provided, just rumours. But if he has been engaging with a surfing instructor for the last 4 years, what the fuck has he been doing? Is this where he's only got to? It makes him look like a dick. He's been having all of these surfing lessons over this period of time. I'm not suggesting that he's been doing it every week for 4 years. But it makes you wonder what on earth has he been doing, because here he is. He basically needs an assist to drop into the wave. He gets on his knees before he can actually get up. He's sort of almost, going in on a ramp, if you will. So it all looks rather amateurish, doesn't it? And makes him look rather incompetent. Maybe this is going to appear in another Netflix doc. Surfing Harry. Perhaps he's going to do his version of Point Break. Maybe do a reboot of that excellent film. But there's also a problem for Harry in relation to putting this out there to make it look like he's a bit of a surf dude, whereas I think most people regard it as quite an amateurish attempt. It's when you compare what he's done as against other members of his family. There's King Charles, or Prince Charles as he was, windsurfing, showing off his physique, getting amongst the waves. He's on the sea, not a surf ranch. He's in control of the windsurfing. Decent picture, isn't it? It looks like he's commanding, that he's the one that's in control, rather than looking like a slightly hesitant ginger brat who's having to be fed into the wave. Complete contrast, and shows a complete difference between his father and him. And when you look at the then Prince Charles and consider that picture as against what you've seen in relation to Harry, it does make Harry look a bit of a dick, doesn't it? Amateurish, toddlers-like. But it gets worse for him, because along comes Big Bro. There's Big Willie Styley rocking the wetsuit. I think this was when he was at St Andrews. So much younger than Harry is. And getting amongst the waves. Notice that he's also in the sea. So if you're going to look at the certain members of the royal family in relation to their surfing and sea credentials, you've got Prince Charles, who was out there windsurfing, Prince William, who's out there surfing amongst the waves. Now, he and Harry did some boogie boarding when they were younger. Did that together, I think, in Cornwall, which is still pretty much fun, but it's not the same as surfing. And surfing requires a different level of strength and discipline, different levels of core strength, etc., which William's exhibiting in what he's doing. And it's quite an interesting contrast, isn't it? Here you have Harry, who's trying to make himself look cool, look like a dude. But I think most people's responses to it are to say, well, it looks entirely amateurish. I know, for instance, in the national newspapers that I've read and looked in the comment section, many people are asking, why are we being told about this? This isn't news. And then condemning him for looking like a complete amateur. And then, if you do a contrast with the members of his family who've taken to the actual sea rather than mincing around in a tank on a surf ranch, overall, it's not a particularly good look for the Prince of Pink Pancakes. It really does cause him to look like a bit of a dick, and one would suggest that this has ultimately backfired. What do you think? Do you think once again Harry looks like the simp that he's become as a consequence of the browbeaten existence that he's lived, owing to the fact of his involvement with his narcissist wife? That any pluck has been sucked out of him, and that he's now become a shadow of his former self, and this surfing video just exemplifies that? Or do you think that's a rather unfair assessment, and he's just learning, and at least he's enjoying himself? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for watching.